Hi, it's Penny here, and today we're going to be putting together my TBR for the month of May. So as usual, I will be using my TBR Machine website that I made that spits out random reading prompts to pick at least half of the books of this TBR. I am also going to be trying to do the thing where I try to set a realistic TBR so I can actually read all of these books. So usually I will pick one audiobook and one physical book for every week of the month. And this month I'm probably going to fill up the first 2 weeks with books either continuing or starting new series. But for the other 4 books, usually I use my TBR machine to pick prompts to pick books off my TBR shelf. So like all the books on my shelf that I haven't read. But now, other than series, which I have separate plans for, and maybe a few other weird exceptions where I'm not counting them, I've read all the books that I wanted to read off my shelves that I haven't read. So they're going to have to all be library books. And we've got the extra challenge of having to find books that fit the prompts that I can also get from the library. So let's pick the first prompt. Read a book by an author who is older than you. So I made a list of all the books I want to read, or all the books on my Goodreads want to read list, and I matched them up against library availability in a spreadsheet. Is it at all easy to search by author's age? No, but let's see what we can do. Oh, actually, so I have a list of priority books, including some that I had as 5-star predictions. One of those is The Memory Theatre by Karen Tidbeck, and I've just looked it up. Karen Tidbeck is 47 years old, which is older than me. Maybe not by much, but enough. So we're going to read The Memory Theatre. I don't actually know what it's about. All I know is that I read Amatka by Karen Tidbeck and I loved it. So I'm hoping I'll love The Memory Theatre too. Let me quickly look up the synopsis. Okay, it seems like a bit of an Alice in Wonderland parallel. So in this world, there's like a parallel world next to ours, known as the Gardens, and the masters of this world live like a really decadent life. It seems like there's games of croquet that have devastating results, and also that teenagers get punished for growing up. So we're following a couple of teenagers, or about to be teenagers, as they try to escape this world before they're punished. And it also seems like they're chasing someone through these different worlds, which is where I think we're getting the White Rabbit connections. Anyway, I'm expecting it to be super strange because Amatka was, so hopefully this will live up to all my hopes and dreams. Okay, then, prompt number 2. Read a book released in 2018. At least I can search on this one. I really need to update my TBR machine because I think I made a lot of these prompts quite a few years ago, and I always intended for some of these year ones to be like more recent years. But maybe it's more fun this way. Okay, straight away I'm seeing The Sword of Kaigan by M.L. Wing, which was another one of my 5-star predictions. So that's what we're going to go with. I think this one is a fantasy where there's like a mother and a son, and the son is now discovering things about their society that the mother has always known because she really came from like the enemy's people or something. I don't really know. I kind of don't want to look up the plot any more than that, but I've heard really great things about it, so I'm excited to read that. I will say both the ones I've picked so far are both ones that I want to read like as a physical book, so the next 2 prompts we need to fulfill with audiobooks, which sometimes can be a little bit more challenging. So the third prompt is going to be read a book that's a retelling. I think I have a Goodreads tag about retellings, but I don't actually know if there's any books that are still tagged with that. Oh, it says one. I already read it. Okay, I found one that probably counts. We're going to go with The Witch's Heart by Genevieve Gornichik. So this is a retelling of, I guess, the story of Angrboda. Not sure on that pronunciation, but she was the wife, or at least the mother of the children of Loki, and so this is her story, I think. I do think Norse mythology is quite interesting, especially Loki, so hopefully I'll really like this. Okay, and then the last prompt will be read a thriller book. You know, I've kind of been trying to avoid thrillers lately because they haven't been doing it for me, but I probably still have some on my want to read list. Okay, I think we're going to go with a sci-fi thriller because even though I've been trying to read less thrillers, I have been trying to read more sci-fi. And we're going to go with The Children of Men by P.D. James. So I have watched the movie of this multiple times and I really like it. It's basically a future where humans are now infertile, so there's no more children, like the youngest child or the last born human is now an adult and everything's kind of a disaster as a result. I really like how the movie portrayed that. And I think it's spoilers to say any more of what happens, but basically the synopsis of the book says that our main character meets some revolutionaries who may hold the key to human survival. Okay, so those are the 4 books that we've just picked with the TBR machine. Now let me tell you about the other 4 books I have on the list. Firstly, I'm going to be continuing Mistborn Era 2 by reading The Bands of Mourning. So this is a spin-off series from the original Mistborn series. We have these people who, when they ingest metals, get certain magical abilities. And while the first trilogy was set in a more classical, fantastical world, the second era is more like Western times, and it is really interesting seeing how it combines some of these metal powers with like guns and bullets. Primarily, we're following Waximilian. I never remember if I'm saying that name right. Anyway, let's call him Waximilian. He was out on the frontier chasing down bad guys, but then after some of his family members die, he's come back to become a lord, and he takes that as an opportunity to start addressing crime in the city. As I'm filming this, I haven't actually read the second book yet, but I'm expecting that will progress things, and then hopefully book 3 will be great, hopefully. Then the audiobook that I want to read that week will be Forest Mage by Robin Hobb. So this is the second book in the Soldier's Son trilogy, which is a fantasy trilogy that isn't in Robin Hobb's very popular Realm of the Elderlings, but I absolutely loved the first book, and I think it has a lot in common with the original Fitz books, or the original Farseer trilogy. What is that trilogy called? Anyway, that first trilogy of the Realm of the Elderlings, in a lot of ways it's very similar, but also similar to Mistborn Era 2, it's kind of set in slightly more modern times. So this world is very similar to like colonial America, including the fact that we have these plains people that the colonists are having battles with. Our main character is a soldier's son, so in this world every second son is basically destined to become a soldier. So a lot of the story in the first book was just set at this school for soldier sons, but there is also a lot about the plains people and these other people and their magic, and quite a lot of like environmentalist themes that I'm really interested to see what it will do with those. So I love the first book in the series. I'm hoping the series will continue to be great, even though I've heard mixed things, but I'm going to continue to be hopeful. Then the next week, I'm going to try and read a bunch of Murderbot books. I'm actually hoping at the start of April to be able to start the Murderbot series and make some progress. And then wherever I get to in April, at this point, I'll continue on. I have at least the first 5 books, I think, on ebook, and I think all of those are novellas. So they should be fairly quick reads. I don't really know how many I could get to in a week, so I don't really know what Murderbot books I'll be reading in this week, but I definitely want to read some. And if you haven't heard about the Murderbot books by Martha Wells, we're basically following this robot who's meant to be working on like security detail, I think for these people who are like going out and like surveying different planets. But Murderbot is an AI, and they have hacked their system, and they're kind of pretending they haven't hacked it so that they can get away with just like staying in their cubicle and watching TV as much as possible. So I have read the first chapter of the first book multiple times and loved it every time. I just haven't been ready to get into a longer series, even though all the books are short, but there's a lot of books. So I'm finally ready. Let's do it. Then that week, I also want to start another series, and that is The Innkeeper Chronicles by Alona Andrews. So Alona Andrews is one of my favorite authors, so I'm sure I'm going to love this. We basically follow this girl who runs an inn, like a Victorian B&B, but she has like a magical broom that she uses as a weapon, and also her inn is like magic and thinks for itself. And also I think there's supposed to be some kind of sci-fi element to the story, so I'm not really sure what these books are going to be like exactly, but I have a lot of faith in Alona Andrews, and I've also heard a lot of good things about this series, so I think it's a safe bet. I'm going to love it. Also, when I look at this full TBR that I've got for the month of May, there are a lot of 5-star predictions on here, so I'm really hoping it's going to be a great reading month. So let me know if you've read any of these books and whether you think I'm going to like them, and let me know what you are planning to read in the month of May. And do subscribe if you'd like to see more of my bookish videos. Otherwise, thank you so much for watching. I hope that you are doing well, and I will see you next time.